The market will test every weakness you refuse to strengthen. There is a moment in every trader's life when they realize something unsettling. The market is not destroying them, their mind is. Their thoughts, their reactions, their rush, their impulses, their habits. This realization is painful, but it is also the beginning of mastery. Because the traders who rise to the top in the UK, the USA, and every major financial hub are not the ones who trade smarter. They are the ones who think differently, and they think differently every single day. There is a moment in every trader's life when they realize something unsettling. The market is not destroying them, their mind is. Their thoughts, their reactions, their rush, their impulses. This realization is painful, but it is also the beginning of mastery. Because the traders who rise to the top in the UK, the USA, and every major financial hub are not the ones who trade smarter. They are the ones who think differently, and they think differently every single day. Here's the reality most beginners never hear up front. The majority of traders aren't inconsistent because they lack strategy. They're inconsistent because they lack mental continuity. They wake up as one version of themselves today and a completely different version tomorrow. They trade with confidence one moment and with fear the next. Consistency in trading is not built in the charts, it is built in the mind that watches the charts, and it is rebuilt every day from the moment you open your eyes. Now pause for a moment and feel this pattern interruption. Picture two traders sitting at their desks. Both have the same laptop, the same broker, the same charts, the same indicators, but one grows year after year while the other burns entire accounts. The difference is invisible to the eye. It's internal. One wakes up daily with a decisive structure. The other wakes up and negotiates with their weaknesses. One has a mental routine. The other has mental randomness. The market always rewards structure over mood. When you begin to think daily like a winner, something shifts inside your identity. You don't wait for the market to give you confidence. You build it yourself. You create certainty in a world that is built on uncertainty. This is the evolution every successful trader eventually embraces, the shift from reacting to creating. And this shift doesn't happen once. It happens day by day, thought by thought, decision by decision. Neuroscience proves this. The brain strengthens whatever you repeatedly think about. Repetition literally rewires emotional responses. That's why the traders who think predictably become the traders who trade predictably. Their mind becomes stable, and their performance follows. Mark Douglas taught that consistency is not an outcome, it's a mindset, and that mindset is crafted through the thoughts you choose every single morning before you even touch the charts. But here's the truth most traders hide from. They want consistent results with inconsistent thinking. They want discipline without daily preparation. They want confidence without emotional conditioning. That's like wanting a strong body without training. The market doesn't care about what you want. It cares about who you are mentally prepared to be. And you can only become that person through deliberate, structured, daily thinking. Let's disrupt your thought process again. Imagine you woke up tomorrow with your old thinking completely wiped out. No fear, no greed, no hesitation, no self-doubt. Just clarity, structure, and control. How would your next trade look? How would your week look? How would your entire trading future change? This vision is not fantasy. It is the reality of traders who discipline their thoughts every day until their mind becomes a reliable partner instead of an emotional opponent. This daily thinking becomes your identity. You stop identifying yourself as a struggling trader and start identifying yourself as a consistent operator, someone who treats trading like a professional sport, not a gamble. Someone who primes their mind the same way athletes prime their bodies. Someone who sharpens their awareness before they expose themselves to risk. You evolve into someone who thinks before they act. And because of that, your actions finally align with long-term success. Consider the psychology behind this. When you wake up with intention, your nervous system settles. Your thoughts become structured. Your emotional triggers weaken. Your decisions strengthen. You no longer enter the charts with the chaotic mental residue of yesterday. You enter with the clarity of someone who is building a future.
And this clarity is your advantage. This is why Livermore always prepared his mind before his trades. He knew the battle was internal before it was external. Now let's go deeper. Consistent trading requires consistent internal questions. Winners ask themselves daily, what is my emotional state? What is my intention today? What is my risk boundary? What is the structure I refuse to break? These questions are not boring. They are powerful. They are the mental framework that protects your account from the version of you that shows up unprepared. And the more you ask them, the more your mind learns to operate in a stable lane. At this stage, your identity begins to solidify. You stop forcing discipline. Discipline becomes the natural expression of a mentally structured operator. Ed Seykota lived by this principle. His legendary consistency wasn't born from luck. It was born from emotional regulation and daily thinking that aligned with long-term survival. His habits created his destiny, and the same truth applies to you, no matter your starting point. But remember this turning point. The mind will always default to comfort unless you redirect it. This is why beginners repeat the same emotional mistakes. Their brain isn't wired for consistency yet. It's wired for reaction. But every time you think consciously, every time you slow down your impulses, every time you bring awareness to your decisions, you take back control. You train your mind to obey structure instead of chaos. This is how you create a trader identity that lasts. Let me hit you with another inner shift. Winners don't think like victims of the market. They think like masters of themselves. They don't ask, why is the market doing this to me? They ask, how do I need to prepare myself today to navigate whatever comes? This is a complete transformation in perspective, and it is the foundation of consistency, because consistency begins where excuses end. This daily thinking becomes your internal environment. You start filtering your thoughts. You start choosing what you allow inside your mind before choosing what trades to allow inside your account. You build boundaries. You build clarity. You build emotional strength. And slowly, almost silently, your trading begins to transform, not because your strategy changed, but because your mindset finally became stable enough to execute it. Winners think daily because they know the mind has a short memory. Confidence decays, discipline weakens, focus slips. The brain resets every morning, and you must reset with it, intentionally. This is why Brian Tracy spoke about the power of self-direction. If you don't direct your thinking, your emotions will. And emotions are the fastest path to inconsistency. So here you are, at the beginning of your mental transformation. Your thinking is the foundation of your identity. Your identity is the foundation of your behavior, and your behavior is the foundation of your results. When you think like a consistent trader every day, you eventually become one, not by chance, but by design. And this is the mindset that separates the traders who fade from the traders who last.
There comes a moment in every trader's development when they realize the market is not chaotic, their mind is. The charts are neutral. The candles do not care. The market behaves the same for everyone. The difference is how you interpret it, how you frame it, how you respond to it. And this response is shaped by one thing only: how you think each day before you allow yourself to trade. Your thinking becomes the filter that either protects your progress or destroys it. Many traders wake up and walk straight into the market while their mind is still carrying the emotional dust of yesterday. They bring old fear into new setups. They bring old frustration into new decisions. They bring old ego into fresh opportunities. What they don't realize is this: inconsistency is not created during the trade. It's created long before the trade. It's born in the unconscious thoughts you repeat as soon as you start your morning. This is why professional traders treat their thinking like a sacred routine. They know the brain is not loyal. It follows whatever pattern you feed it. If you feed it fear in the morning, it becomes fear. If you feed it structure, it becomes structure. If you feed it confidence, it becomes confidence. Neuroscience confirms this. The brain adapts to repeated internal states. This is why winners think deliberately every day. Their thinking becomes the software running their performance. Let's interrupt your rhythm for a moment. Imagine walking into the market without rushing for entries. Imagine sitting with your thoughts for a few minutes and observing them like data instead of reacting to them like triggers. Imagine letting your emotions settle before exposing your money to risk. This is the hidden behavior that separates disciplined traders from impulsive ones. The market is already unpredictable. Your mind shouldn't be. This is where identity begins to take shape. When you think daily with clarity and direction, you build a mental image of yourself that becomes stronger than your emotions. You begin to see yourself as a structured operator, not a gambler. You begin to trust your process, not your impulses. You begin to operate from purpose, not mood. This identity becomes your anchor, the internal compass that keeps you stable when the market starts shaking. Mark Douglas understood this deeply. He taught that traders fail not because of analysis, but because they fail to manage their internal states. Most traders analyze perfectly and execute poorly because they bring an unstable identity to the chart. They try to act like a professional without thinking like one. They try to trade consistently without living consistently. You can't separate the quality of your thinking from the quality of your results. Now, consider this emotional shift. Your thoughts determine your pressure level. When you begin the day thinking like someone who needs to win, pressure rises. When you begin the day thinking like someone who needs to follow process, pressure disappears. The market becomes lighter. Decisions become smoother. Losses become manageable. Wins become calm. Your whole trading experience changes because you changed the mental story you tell yourself before the day begins. Winners think in a direction that reduces emotional noise. They think about their risk boundaries. They think about their internal energy. They think about their behavior patterns. They think about what they must protect today. Their mindset, their capital, their consistency. They never approach the charts blind. They approach with awareness, and awareness is the first step to clarity. Let's break another pattern here. Most traders want to change their results, but they refuse to change their thoughts. They want to avoid overtrading, but they don't want to slow down mentally. They want confidence, but they don't want to condition their identity. They want discipline, but they don't want to train their internal environment. Winners know better. They accept that consistent thinking is the fuel for consistent behavior. The powerful truth is this: your mind will always drift without guidance. It will wander into fear. It will wander into doubt. It will wander into hope, impatience, temptation. But when you guide your thinking daily, when you place conscious intention at the start of your day, your mind becomes your ally instead of your enemy. You stop drifting. You start directing. You start leading yourself toward consistency instead of reacting your way into inconsistency. This is why Livermore often spent more time preparing than trading. His advantage wasn't his strategy. It was his mental readiness. He entered the market only when his internal state aligned with his identity. If his thinking wasn't sharp, he didn't trade. If his emotions weren't stable, he stayed away. That's not weakness, that's mastery. That's the behavior of someone who understands that the mind is the true battlefield. Winners think daily because they understand the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. One emotional decision can wipe out weeks of work. One moment of impatience can erase months of discipline. But when your mind is trained every morning, those emotional impulses weaken. They lose their power. You begin to override them with the identity you have built, not the habit you are trying to escape. This daily thinking does something extraordinary. It slows down your psychological speed. You stop rushing. You stop chasing. You stop forcing. Your decisions begin to come from a calm state instead of a panicked one. And calm decisions lead to clean trades. Clean trades lead to consistent execution. Consistent execution leads to steady growth. This is the chain reaction winners create through simple daily mental alignment. At this point, your inner world begins to evolve. You no longer wake up reacting to your environment, you wake up shaping it. You take responsibility for your thoughts. You choose the kind of trader you will be today. You decide your emotional direction before the market decides it for you. This is identity-driven thinking. This is the beginning of true mastery. This is how you build consistency, not through force, but through intention. The beauty of this process is that it compounds. Every day you think like a winner, your mind becomes slightly stronger, slightly calmer, slightly more aligned with your goals. You begin to trust yourself more than you trust the market. You develop internal certainty in an external world of uncertainty. This inner certainty becomes your quiet power. It becomes the reason you no longer panic during volatility, no longer chase missing moves, no longer fear losses. And slowly, over time, your entire trading life begins to feel different, not because the market changed, but because you did. You wake up with purpose, you trade with patience, you operate with clarity, you recover faster, you learn deeper, you adapt quicker, you grow stronger. This is what winners experience when they think daily with intention. Their thinking becomes their advantage. Their advantage becomes their identity. Their identity becomes their consistency.
There is a simple truth that most traders learn far too late. Inconsistency is not a trading problem. It is a thinking problem. The decisions you make on the chart are just the surface. The real drivers are the thoughts beneath those decisions. And the most dangerous thoughts are the unconscious ones, the ones that quietly pull you toward impulse, fear, hesitation, and emotional trading without you even noticing. Winning traders guard their thinking as fiercely as they guard their capital. Many traders think their inconsistency is caused by bad entries, late exits, or poor timing. But the real cause is the mental environment they enter their session with. If your mind is stressed, you will seek comfort trades. If your mind is bored, you will seek stimulation trades. If your mind is insecure, you will seek revenge trades. The market only exposes what your mind already carries. This is why winners build their thinking before they build their strategy. Here's the pattern interrupt. The market is not your challenge. Your challenge is the internal conversation happening inside your head before you even click a button. Your thoughts can accelerate your success or sabotage it. They can make you patient or make you reckless. They can keep you aligned with your plan or pull you toward emotional behavior. Every trading day is won or lost long before your first entry. This is where identity becomes your strongest support system. When you think daily like someone who protects their capital, your behavior naturally aligns with that identity. You stop chasing, you stop forcing, you stop gambling. You operate with dignity instead of desperation. Your decisions begin to reflect who you believe you are. Brian Tracy taught that behavior follows self-concept. When you think like a consistent person, you act like one. Professional traders think in probabilities, not predictions. They don't ask the market to prove them right. They ask themselves whether they followed their process. Their confidence comes from structure, not luck. Neuroscience shows that the brain becomes calmer when operating inside predictable routines. Winners use this to their advantage. Their thinking focuses on what they can control, their risk, their behavior, their emotional responses. In this stage of your development, your mind becomes a mirror. It reflects your weaknesses without judgment. If you feel impatient, the mirror shows it. If you feel afraid, the mirror shows it. If you feel overconfident, the mirror shows it.
Livermore understood this deeply. His greatest mistakes were not technical, they were emotional. They were rooted in how he thought before he traded. When his thinking was stable, his performance elevated. When it was chaotic, his trading collapsed. Here comes another emotional transition. You start realizing that consistency is a mental rhythm, a stable inner tempo. When your thoughts are aligned, your trading is aligned. When your thoughts are scattered, your performance becomes scattered. This is why daily thinking is not optional. It is essential. You cannot achieve consistent results while living with inconsistent thought patterns. Think about this shift. Instead of waking up and hoping for a good day, you wake up and create the mental conditions for a good day. You slow your mind, you ground your emotions, you choose your behavioral direction. You decide who enters the market today, the emotional version of you or the professional version of you. This choice determines everything that happens next. Mark Douglas often said that traders must accept uncertainty while managing themselves. This philosophy becomes real in this part of your journey. You begin to accept that you cannot control the market, but you also begin to realize that you do not need to. You only need to control your internal responses to it. This is where mental strength becomes practical, not theoretical. You start using emotional awareness as a tool instead of experiencing it as a threat. Daily thinking also creates emotional recovery speed. You bounce back faster after a loss. You calm down quicker after volatility. You release frustration sooner after a missed move. You stop carrying emotional residue into the next session. Winning traders are not calm because nothing affects them. They are calm because they return to balance faster than others. And balance begins with thought direction. Here's another pattern interrupt to tighten your focus. Your brain will always take the path of least resistance. If you do not direct it daily, it will drift toward emotions that feel convenient: fear, excitement, doubt, impatience. These emotions are easy. Discipline is intentional. Calmness is intentional. Consistency is intentional. Winners start their day by choosing intention over impulse. This daily thinking gradually builds a new internal identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who does not need to chase, someone who does not break rules, someone who does not panic, someone who stays aligned even during uncertainty. This identity becomes stronger than your emotional fluctuations. The stronger your identity, the weaker your impulses. This is how professionals protect themselves from self-sabotage. Once your daily thinking becomes structured, your actions become predictable in the best way possible. You no longer surprise yourself with emotional trades. You become reliable. You become stable. You become someone who behaves the same regardless of market noise. This reliability is what creates long-term consistency. Trading becomes less chaotic because your mind becomes less chaotic. You start to experience a psychological lightness that did not exist before. Your fear decreases because you think with clarity. Your impatience decreases because you think with stability. Your anxiety decreases because you think with direction. When your thoughts are aligned, your emotions lose their power. This emotional liberation becomes the foundation of your trading confidence. And slowly, without forcing it, your entire approach evolves. You stop waking up as the old version of you. You stop thinking like the inconsistent trader who used to react to every candle. You become deliberate. You become grounded. You become composed. This is what winners feel every morning. The quiet certainty that comes from thinking with purpose before acting with risk. Their consistency is not a mystery.
There is a moment in every trader's evolution where they discover one of the most powerful truths in the financial world. Consistency is not created on the chart. It is created in the space between your thoughts. The chart only reveals the quality of your inner world. When your thinking is stable, your trading becomes stable. When your thinking becomes erratic, your performance follows. This is why the most successful traders on the planet spend more time training their minds than adjusting their indicators. The challenge is that most traders attempt consistency through willpower alone. They try to force discipline. They try to force patience. They try to force emotional control. But willpower collapses under pressure. Stress destroys it. Losses weaken it. Uncertainty breaks it. Consistency requires something far deeper, automatic thinking patterns that become stronger than your emotional impulses. And these patterns are built through repetition, awareness, and identity, not through force. Here's a powerful pattern interrupt. You do not rise to the level of your strategy. You fall to the level of your thinking. If your thinking is chaotic, no system can save you. If your thinking is stable, even a simple system becomes effective. The market does not reward intelligence, it rewards psychological reliability. And psychological reliability is the product of consistent mental habits. This is where the internal architecture of a winner begins to form. They think in structure, they think in boundaries, they think in consequences, they think in probabilities. Their thoughts are not random, they are guided by principles that do not change with the weather, the mood, or the market conditions. Their thinking is the strongest risk management tool they own, and they use it every single day. Neuroscience confirms this evolution. The brain wires itself around repeated thoughts and behaviors. When you repeatedly think in calmness, you build neural stability. When you repeatedly think in discipline, you build behavioral consistency. When you repeatedly think in process, you create emotional predictability. This rewiring is not motivational, it is biological. You are literally shaping the brain of a consistent trader. As your thinking becomes structured, your emotional world begins to transform. Emotional spikes become shorter. Emotional reactions become softer. Emotional urges become weaker. The mind starts recognizing emotional noise for what it is, temporary signals, not permanent truths. Livermore wrote endlessly about this internal battle. His finest trading periods came only when his emotions were quiet enough for his thinking to guide his actions. A deep identity shift begins here. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must fight emotions. You start seeing yourself as someone who can direct emotions. This shift changes everything. You stop trying to eliminate fear and begin working with it. You stop trying to avoid discomfort and learn how to operate inside it. You stop trying to control outcomes and instead control your responses. This is emotional maturity, and it is the foundation of consistency. Daily thinking becomes your psychological anchor. You begin grounding yourself every morning with the same mental clarity. You begin entering the market with the same internal questions. You begin reviewing your behavior with the same level of honesty. This repetition creates a mental rhythm, one that protects you from emotional turbulence and guides you back to your principles when uncertainty rises. Here's another pattern interrupt. Consistency is not created when things go well. It is created when things go wrong. Anyone can follow rules in perfect conditions. Only a professional mindset follows rules when the chart becomes unpredictable. And the only traders capable of that are those who think daily with precision. Their thinking protects them when volatility tests their identity. Mark Douglas explained this perfectly through the probabilistic mindset. You learn to expect nothing and prepare for everything. You no longer attach your self-worth to a single outcome. You no longer collapse emotionally after a loss. You no longer feel the need to force a result. Your mind becomes trained to operate in uncertainty without feeling threatened by it. This mental state is what turns traders into long-term survivors. Daily thinking also builds psychological endurance. You are no longer drained by every fluctuation. You are no longer exhausted by decision-making. You are no longer overwhelmed by possibility.
Your mental energy becomes steady instead of reactive, and steady mental energy creates stable trading behavior. Sekota embodied this throughout his career. He kept his thinking so structured that his actions became almost ritualistic. This is the level of consistency you are moving toward. With each day of disciplined thinking, your trading identity grows stronger. You begin recognizing yourself as someone who follows rules naturally. You begin trusting your ability to handle pressure. You begin taking pride in your restraint instead of your aggression. This identity becomes the psychological shield that protects you during uncertainty. When your identity is strong, your emotions cannot override it. You start to feel something powerful inside you, a quiet confidence, not loud, not dramatic, not ego-driven. This confidence is grounded in self-trust. You trust your structure, you trust your thinking, you trust your emotional process, you trust your boundaries. When confidence comes from within instead of from results, consistency rises effortlessly because nothing external can disturb your internal equilibrium. This is where trading stops feeling chaotic and starts feeling strategic. You stop guessing and start operating. You stop hoping and start executing. You stop reacting and start responding. The market becomes less like a battlefield and more like a neutral environment where your thinking guides every movement. This internal stability is what turns ordinary traders into professionals. And slowly, almost silently, your thinking becomes the strongest trading tool you own. It becomes the foundation of your discipline. It becomes the engine of your patience. It becomes the guardian of your capital. You begin operating from a mindset that does not break under pressure, does not panic under uncertainty, and does not chase emotional impulses. You become consistent, not because you try to be, but because you think like someone who already is.
There comes a moment in every trader's life when they stop chasing systems and start building themselves. This is the turning point where the market stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a mirror. Because at the highest level, trading is not about predicting the future. It's about managing the version of yourself that shows up each day. And when you master that version, consistency becomes your natural state, not a lucky stretch. Most traders never reach this stage because they cling to the identity of a struggler. They replay losses in their mind, speak about trading like it's always attacking them, and allow small mistakes to shape their belief system. But winners treat every mistake as information. They shift from "I failed" to "I learned." This identity shift is the silent foundation behind every consistent trader you admire. This is where psychology meets neuroscience. Your repeated thoughts form neural pathways, and those pathways become your default reactions during pressure. When you think like a victim of the market, your brain wires anxiety, hesitation, and self-doubt. When you think like a committed, structured, disciplined trader, the brain wires calm execution. Identity is not motivation, it's repetition shaping your biology. To build this identity, you must make one promise to yourself, the promise of daily alignment. Not perfection, not certainty, alignment. You decide each morning the type of trader you are becoming, and then your behavior follows that decision. This is how highly consistent traders maintain stability even in unstable markets. Their identity anchors their decisions long before volatility tests them. Think about the traders studied in behavioral finance research. The ones who stay consistent do something differently. They are emotionally prepared before they trade. They don't rely on last-minute decisions or hope. They ground themselves with routines, visualizations, and structured expectations. Their identity is built outside the charts so they can perform inside them. Brian Tracy often teaches that your daily habits reveal your future. For traders, this principle becomes even more powerful. Your habits become your emotional safety net. They shape how you respond during chaos. When winners journal,
reflect, review, study, and prepare. They aren't doing tasks, they are strengthening their identity. They are training their nervous system to stay stable when the market shakes. If the earlier parts built your discipline, this part builds your identity. The trader who shows up with intention, not emotion. The trader who executes with clarity, not fear. The trader who trusts their process, not luck. This version of you becomes stronger every time you follow through on your commitments, even in small ways. Each small act of discipline is a vote toward your future consistency. Many traders ask why consistency feels so difficult. The answer is simple. They try to perform without becoming. They want consistent profits without consistent identity. They want flawless execution without emotional maturity. Winners reverse this. They build their identity first, and the execution naturally aligns with it. You cannot outperform the identity you hold. Every legendary trader, Livermore, Sakota, Douglas, built themselves through painful stages of self-awareness. They confronted their impulsiveness, their ego, their fear of missing moves, their desire for revenge. They didn't hide from these patterns, they studied them. This self-study became their weapon, and eventually the market stopped controlling them because they mastered the version of themselves that once sabotaged them. Winners also understand the truth of emotional energy. You cannot eliminate fear or uncertainty, but you can direct your energy through structure. Your identity becomes the filter that transforms emotion into action. Instead of panicking, you evaluate. Instead of chasing, you observe. Instead of reacting, you respond. The market becomes less intimidating because you become more intentional. The peak identity of a trader is not confidence, it is self-trust. Confidence can be temporary. Self-trust is earned through repetition, through showing up every day, through doing the hard things when no one is watching, through learning from your errors without destroying your self-belief. When you trust yourself, you automatically begin to think, behave, and execute like a consistent trader. Your identity also defines your standards. Winners refuse to take trades that do not meet their criteria because it violates who they are, not just their rules. They refuse to risk emotionally because it breaks their identity, not just their plan. They refuse to chase because chasing contradicts their values. Consistency becomes easy when your standards are high enough to make inconsistency unacceptable. This shift is where your journey transforms. You stop needing motivation because identity becomes automatic. You stop fearing losses because identity manages your reaction. You stop seeking shortcuts because identity guides your discipline. Winners don't force consistency, they embody it. And once you embody it, the market cannot shake it. This is your moment to choose, not the strategy, not the indicator, not the next setup. Choose the identity of a disciplined, structured, consistent trader. Choose to think daily, act daily, and grow daily. Because the traders who master their days master their results, and your results are waiting for the identity you decide to build. If you've reached this point, you already feel the shift inside you, the calm, the clarity, the commitment. Let this be the version of you that shows up tomorrow. Let this identity guide every trade you take. If you want more powerful lessons that strengthen your psychology and sharpen your discipline, subscribe to Mind for Trade. This channel exists for traders who want to grow, transform, and master consistency from the inside out.